my presentation on a research paper about the AI use and its effect on critical thinking in the future, as well as how cognitive offloading is affected. Okay, so the research question of this research paper was basically, first, how does the usage of AI tools impact critical thinking skills? And their hypothesis was that as AI usage increases, the critical thinking skills go down. And the second research question is like, what is the mediating role of cognitive offloading? And the hypothesis was that cognitive offloading mediates the relationship between AI tool usage and critical thinking. So basically what cognitive offloading is when you are doing a task, you have a certain like cognitive load amount, and it's delegating a certain task to a different tool, such as using a calculator or note-taking, so that you free up more space to be able to do more complex tasks. And critical thinking is like analytical and evaluating skills, and such as decision making, problem solving, and also reflective thinking. First, this is the literature review, which is basically like some background of previous studies done on this topic. First is Gerlich, and he researched a bit about cognitive offloading, and it supported the fact that as trust in AI increases, you rely on it more, and that increases the amount of cognitive offloading that happens when you're using AI. Also, there is a study on the Google effect done by Sparrow, Liu, and Wegner, which is basically when people are using Google, since you have such easy access to be able to search up information, you stop trying to exercise the practice of retaining information, and you kind of memorize how to get to that information instead of the actual information itself. And that is an effect that it has on your cognitive abilities, as well as the cognitive load theory, which is basically when like each person, when they're doing a certain task, they have a certain amount of space, and cognitive offloading can help kind of free up more space. There are also further studies that support. Basically, when we're using AI, there is an erosion of analytical skills because when we're using AI, there's an erosion of analytical skills because it's so easy and accessible that people stop. There is less engagement with cognitive skills. And there's also the black box effect, which is because people just tell AI what to do, they don't actually understand the process that goes into how to problem solve, and then they stop paying attention to how to do that, and they don't learn the correct way to do things. Okay, so these are some of the more already widely recognized methods to assess critical thinking. One is the Halpern critical thinking assessment, which is a 50-question test. It's 25 multiple choice and 25 open-ended, and it helps assess like problem solving skills, decision making, things that tell you how well you are at critical thinking. There's also the Terenzini self-reported measures, which is more based on the participants' view of their own abilities. And so both of those methods were used in this experiment, and they didn't interview, but they gave a questionnaire to 666 participants from the UK, and there were separate age groups that they were categorized into, and there was 23 questions that use both of the previous methods, and it's on using a 6-step Likert scale, which is from 1 to never strongly disagree, or to 6 always strongly agree. And after that, this is kind of the quantitative process. There's also a qualitative process, which is an interview with 50 of the participants, asking questions to go more into depth on their thinking and how they think AI affects their critical thinking. These are the analysis methods that I used for research. There was analysis of variance, ANOVA, also random forest regression, multiple regression analysis, Pearson's correlation coefficients, and this Braun and Clark 6-phrase framework, which was used for the qualitative analysis. And basically the random forest regression is a machine learning analysis tool that can kind of show the features that affect each that can affect the results the most, and the multiple regression analysis can show the correlation between two variables. And these are the results. So first, these are the ANOVA results, which show the results of the different groups. And from this, you can see that education level had a very big impact on the critical thinking scores. So as people had higher level education, their critical thinking also increased a lot. And there was also gender, occupation, and age. And this p-value, less than 0.001% means that it has a strong likelihood of a correlation. And if it's a bigger number like this, it means that it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
What's the residual?
The residual, I think this is just I'm not really sure.
I think I kind of know the answer to that. Basically, the residual is like the first four numbers are like how much of the variance in critical thinking can be explained by education, gender, occupation, and age, and then residual is just like how much is just due to random chance, kind of.
Okay.
I think.
And this is like a correlation analysis and with critical thinking. So AI tool use had a negative correlation with critical thinking based on the 6-number scale, and these also show like different correlations, such as education level has a strong correlation. And this is the summary of the table. AI tool use with cognitive offloading has a strong positive correlation, which means that people who use AI more are more likely to implement cognitive offloading. And also AI tool use and critical thinking have a negative correlation. So people who used AI more had showed a decline in critical thinking skills. This experiment also showed that younger generations had lower critical thinking skills than older generations who use less AI. And this one is the random forest regression, which shows the feature importance of everything. And this shows that AI tool use has the most importance in predicting the critical thinking levels of each participant. And these all show how much it impacted the critical thinking. Okay, so this is the discussion, and from this research they came to the conclusion that higher AI usage is associated with reduced critical thinking skills, and that cognitive offloading is a mediator of this phenomenon. And one thing that they came to a conclusion to is that AI usage should be balanced, because AI usage has positive or advantages in education, because you can use it to work more efficiently, and also it can adapt to different types of students so that they can learn in better ways. But it will also reduce their ability to analyze stuff and think independently. So it should be balanced and used in a way that engages cognitive skills in order to make sure that the student succeeds. So some of the limitations that I found in this research paper is sample bias, because they only got data from people from the United Kingdom, and also it wasn't a very large amount of participants. Also self-reported measures, which is basically all the questions were asking them what they thought of themselves, such as how much do you think you use AI, which could vary based on the person, and it might not be that accurate. Also, they made the correlation that critical thinking was associated with AI use, but it could also be associated with age and experience, because as you get older and you get more experience with the workforce, or maybe just like life and problem solving skills, you could also train your critical thinking skills more instead of just AI usage, because it also showed that older people use less AI, so there might not so there isn't like a causation that can be shown. Also, with the interview data, I didn't really show that part in the results, because they were just choosing like quotes that participants showed, one or two quotes that supported their research, and it didn't really show all the participants' answers or like the questions that they asked the participants. So I think this is pretty selective and might not really support their claim. So yeah, in conclusion, AI tools can have a lot of advantages, but also a lot of drawbacks, because as you use more AI, it can lower your critical thinking abilities, and this is something that we should pay attention to in the future when we're using it. So we should be careful not to use it too much, so that it limits our abilities to think for ourselves. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Are you taking any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Send enough questions.
Okay, yes.
What was on the survey?
What was on the
Yeah,
survey?
what were the survey questions? Do you
The
know?
23 question one?
Yeah.
There were questions like,
Just to get a sense.
okay, so first there was questions about like their age and gender and occupation and stuff. And then it was, how often do you use AI tools? How much do you think you rely on them? And how much do you trust AI? Stuff like that. And then for cognitive offloading, it was, how often do you use search engines like Google to find information quickly? How often do you use your smartphone or other digital devices to remember tasks or information? And like, how dependent are you on those devices? For critical thinking, how often do you critically evaluate sources? How confident are you in your ability to discern fake news from legitimate news? Stuff like that.
Oh, so it's all self-reported critical
Yeah,
thinking.
it's
So it's not
Yeah.
an objective measure.
Yes.
Interesting. So would you do something different after reading this research?
Yes, I think the research isn't that like reliable. So I would probably find a way to not have it self-reported and be more, I don't know, objective.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Does the education level, like, options take into account, like, kind of the age groups for, like, all the 17 to 25, I think those were all grouped. So obviously, like, a bunch of the 25-year-olds would have a much higher education level than the 17-year-olds, because
Yeah.
like college and etc. So was that like kind of accounted for by like splitting that age group into like subgroups?
I don't think so. I was looking through it, and I think that's also a problem that
Okay.
account for.
Alright, any other questions? Okay, nice. Tasia, do you want to do your presentation
Yep.
next? Alright.
Is that your laptop or Liam's?
This is my laptop.
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
thing connects now.
Okay.
Good job, Cindy.